Welcome to the crazy yet again. Happy Friday. So this week I wanted to discuss my current influences. That's everything. So artists, YouTubers, Instagram accounts, books, all these types of things that influence me today. The reason I'm saying today is because those change. The reason I came about this is because I've got a few new subscribers. Hi everyone. Lovely to have you here. And everyone's been kind of trying to, giving me loads of like people to look at and suggestions, like different artists, different YouTubers and things like this, which is amazing, which I love. I love that so much. I'm also going to talk about the pros and cons on some of the things that I do. So for example, pros would be you're kind of looking at a new perspective, you're getting that influence, you're kind of taking bits from people who've perfected this thing and you're kind of reimagining it in your own style, medium, all that good stuff. One of the main cons though is that sometimes you start to get like imposter syndrome. You can start to kind of get down about the work that you've done and like, oh my god, I should have been doing this, and your inner gremlin just starts being there's no other way. We all get it. We all have to like have that word with ourselves and go, no, we're not having that conversation today. I've got to tighten these up because they're just doing my head in. They're my new painting overalls. A lot of people have been telling me to go and see Sandy Hester, and I want to acknowledge this because there's so many people, which is like one of the biggest compliments to me because the woman is amazing, right? I discovered Sandy before I started the channel, and I started the channel because of the confidence she gave me watching her channel. And I purchased one of her pieces, which I still haven't had framed. I did film the reveal, like me opening this piece. This is one of her still lifes in oil. She doesn't obviously work in oil anymore. So Sandy is kind of like my little guru. Sometimes I don't watch what she's doing because I'm kind of comfortable in my own process, and then when I stumble across something I'm like, oh, I can't, like, why is this not working? Then I go back, and sometimes I need reassurance, as we all do. So Sandy is probably one of the most influential people that I have, and so many people have been advising I go onto a channel if I haven't already. I like her ethos regarding creative practice. It should be fun, it should be enjoyable, you should enjoy doing it, you know, and if you're not, why? Like, what is going on there? And her commitment to sketchbooks as a tool. I also recently found another YouTuber advised by one of my new subscribers, John. Hi John. John is another YouTuber, go over see his channel, I'll link it down below. He advised I look at Andrew Bowerman, who is a Cornwall-based artist. He is a plein air artist. He was like, so it was about me waiting for things to dry. It's like a bone of contention with me. And John said, why are you letting it dry? You should look at this artist. And I did, and I subscribed to his channel because he works in oils. He has a very different aesthetic in some ways, but in others, he likes to remain loose. He's very considered about the landscape, about composition, about values. Like, he has that kind of sense of experience that you can always kind of be brushed up with. So watching his channel has been really informative because I'm going, oh yeah. He rendered this picture, oh, it was beautiful. The trees, oh my God, the trees and the vegetation and everything, just delish. That inspired me to kind of go out again and look at the landscape in a different way. I'm going to start with art books. I purchased this book. So this is Women of Abstract Expressionism. Oh my God, I can't even speak. Mainly for abstract expressionism. I find it's such a beautiful way of thinking about mark making, thinking about colour, thinking about how you tell the story of wherever you are. Obviously, that's a ground, by the way. I've gone through this. Look at all of that. Love, 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 love. Lots of inspo. Hang on a minute. Oh, it is. It was my delivery. Okay, I'll take you through this book, but I'll downpan you, okay? So I'm gonna go through them. Oh my God. I ran. I'm not a runner. The first one I've done is, who's this by? Pat Passoff. And then you've got Yvonne Thomas. Now, I like these two, and the reason is because they're very heavy on the mark making. I love how they push colour and they just like ram them together in this relationship that can only be described as an uncomfortable one. But the composition of each section, oh, it's just delicious, isn't it? I'll take you through another sketchbook that I have since maintained, inspired by Sandy Hester, by the way. But I will also go into how phenomenally amazing it has been to keep that sketchbook. It's pushed me on so much, making more expressive marks and not being so tight and not being so conscious. Look at those marks. Look how delicious they are. And they're the layers, you know, they're just poking through. I think that might be an oil. Yeah, oil paint on canvas. Joan Mitchell, let's be honest. Delish! Your eyes don't really know where to start or begin. To me, it reads landscape. Probably isn't. Let me have a read. A swimming at Barnes Hall, but it was too cold. But it got too cold. 1957. So yeah, it's relatively landscape. Love that. I think that's fantastic. It's a beautiful way to look at the landscape. Mary Abbott on the next page. She loves a drip. I love a good drip, but I'm always very conscious. Does it look overused? Mary Abbott again on the next page, but it was more for the green. What's this one called? All green. Well, that's just fabulous, isn't it? There's just something so, you know, free about it. Do you know what I mean? The freedom in this is just, it's just fantastic. This piece, right, overleaf, Elaine de Kooning, Bullfight. So this is actually for the front cover. And well, could you get more fabulous? There's so much harmony. I don't actually know what to do with it. When I look through this book, I'm just so inspired. So the next one is Pierre Fine. I love this one because of the space, because of the minimal element within that piece and the texture and just this blop of like green and blue, you know? You just want to start chomping on the canvas because it's just so nummy. Helen Frankenthaler. Wow, that is a mouthful. Very opaque. What does she oil paint on canvas? Very, very washy. I mean, she must have really gone to town with that turpentine, but the marks, the shapes, you could look at these pieces for hours and still come across new details. There's nothing more delightful than that. Right, next page. Oh, delish. Ethel, yeah, that's just, I'll put it at the bottom. Dead Leaves or Autumn Leaves. Fantastic, beautiful. That mark making is just delicious. The brush has obviously been consistently pushed across the canvas, but you can still see pops of different mark making, either just on top of this red area and just under with these orange pieces popping through. It's clearly a landscape, sky, you know, the way the canvas has been sort of somewhat cut in half. Well, 3/4 of the way up, it's been cut off with this blue sky. And you can see it's sort of a woodland, you know, but just the way that has been applied. And it's so balanced as well. This is the thing, I just find like it's sorcery. Imagine how many hours of practice and dedication it is taken to get to these abstract pieces. Most people who aren't in the industry or are familiar with this type of work would just be like, meh, you know, it's a bloody mess. But when you start doing it yourself, it is so difficult. And now I'm doing it more and more. I'm looking at these going, wow, the confidence and the experience. I have a sort of a newfound appreciation of it. I'll just flick through like the highlights, I think, at this point, just because I could be here all day. At the back of the book, it goes into sort of like a very brief, very brief synopsis of all the artists and their influences and where they have work and when they started and everything. It's a really good, well-rounded book. I love books like this. The reason I do is because they are a collection of various artists. Now I really like that because I can, you know, they're all so different and I can take bits and bobs from each and be inspired. The other book that I have, which is very akin to what I was just saying, is a collection of artists, is Landscape Painting Now. I mean, oh, delicious. There's bright pink and yellow and it clashes, but it's fabulous. This texture, delicious. Delish. Absolutely delicious. I'm just going to flick through them. But this book is just fantastic. David Hockney's Landscape. That is just utterly beautiful, I'll be honest. Oh, I could honestly, I shouldn't have really started with the books because we're going to be here all day. I can't help myself. Right, so no. This is a really good book, fantastic. And the artists on there, I mean, there's plenty of them, as you can see. When I look onto Instagram, all I really get is art. All just different things, because I all think that it feeds in to the same place at the end of the day, and we're all learning all the time. Sometimes though, when I'm feeling very vulnerable, I can look at someone's work and want to change my entire practice. I don't know what that is. I always sit down, I say the same things. Look, it's your work, it's your slice of the world. You have just rekindled this. And what is the point of measuring yourself against the rest of the world? No. But sometimes I am human and we can do that no matter where we are in our career, unless you're a complete, you know, psychopath and then, you know, you don't care about those things. I go to the books and I go to Instagram and I do this and I do that. Sometimes if you overdo that, you can start to feel bad about yourself. And I'm not usually influenced by those types of things, but I really was. I was very aware about how much I'm yet to learn. And then you're like, yeah, but we're doing it all the time. You're learning all the time. And if you're not, what are you doing? But I have to stick to my guns. I have to have a conversation with myself and say, all these influences are great, but you need to know when to stop. You really do. There is a fine line because you can get into that space again. I only really started to really kind of have this type of dialogue with myself when I turned 30. And I'm by no means old, so let's just get that out of the way. I'm 34 now, 35 this year. The day I turned, literally the day I turned 30, all that stuff that you accumulate in your 20s, gone. I woke up and I was like, how do I feel? Oh my God, I feel like I don't give a somehow my brain just goes, right, enough of that self-loathing stuff. We're gonna purge it. And it just fell away. Obviously you've ended up with this, but seeing these people talk about things that I care about in a way that I identify with is so empowering. But you always need to be that person talking to yourself as well. Don't be like that, you silly sausage roll. The other YouTube artist, let's go back onto this again, tangent, is the Unexpected Gypsy. So she's based in the UK. She's got a very specific aesthetic. She's very much into like journaling. The commitment she gives to her journals is the equivalent of a sketchbook to Sandy. So they're very similar in so many ways. The Unexpected Gypsy, her name is Wendy. She talks about this. She talks about journaling. She also has like an Etsy shop and a massive following on YouTube. But I like her channel because she talks like, I think her latest one was Why I Have No Friends at 50. But it's from the perspective of a creative person, you know. She was an art teacher. She lived in a van for like 10 years with her husband. She just got a really unique and very honest perspective on life. She talks about like menopause, because she's going through menopause and all these sorts of things. But it's always from a creative person's perspective and having a practice. So I really do find her channel a very uplifting and useful tool. I don't do ring bound, however, the paper is great. And so I decided to use this book, number 17, Jesus. I decided to use this book and be inspired by Sandy. She's got a couple of books that's just for abstract work, right? I mean, I really, really like that one. There's something absolutely stunning about this one. Compositionally, I just, love it. No, I think I overworked it, too muddy, and I really wanted to work on top of that, but I thought, no, I'm gonna keep it because there's tiny bits about it that I like. There's information on there that I can refer back to later, both what I want and what I don't want to see ever again. different colours. I was kind of trying to crowbar different colours, take the landscape, take portions of the landscape and abstract them. This was the water. Now look at these lines. Oh, just that dark, beautiful, right? And there's bits about it I absolutely love. I'm figuring out bodies of water. Let's not forget, I do live in the Lake District, you know, and I'm missing out on a massive trick with the water, especially when it gets to like spring, summer, especially with the height of summer. You know, I want to be out on the lakes and I want to be taking my sketchbook and I want to be going to the beaches. Well, there is going to be a whole lot of water, so there's no point avoiding it, you know? This is actually a little message to myself, which Wendy does. This is what Wendy does, right? When you don't know what to paint, just paint. And that's what this book is about. Being abstract, playing with colour. The other thing is, I don't know about you, but there's something acutely aesthetical about swatching. Like, you know, like the way Sandy swatches when it's all sort of like blop, 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 and then she goes mental on a tangent, you know, dry, wet, wet, dry, and then dry, dry, and then wet, wet, and then, you know, she brings in other things and it just goes mental across the page, and she's 5 pages in, you know, and when she stops, it's kind of like, oh, that, I could frame that, you know. It's a swatch and it's just playing, but there's a lot of them that I could just be like, oh yeah, I would totally frame that. I've only done a couple in there. I have done more in other sketchbooks, which I'll show you. This is the Moleskine. This is my jumbo. Okay, so like, I think this was the first one I did. And there are like I said, there's a bits about it I really like. And there's like bits about it, I think the water kind of got on it. And then I went in with some other materials and I was just playing. But as a piece, I'm not comfortable. It's making me uncomfortable. But there's, weirdly enough, there's something I quite like about that as well. I don't know. This is actually gouache, very much blurry. It was wet on wet, and then I went back in when it had dried. And I like the composition. I like the space around the sides. But again, it's that there's bits about it that make me uncomfortable again. Then I was sort of thinking about blue water. So I started something, it got out of control, as you can see. But again, I'm liking bits about this as well, thinking about big bodies of water. In fact, I said it. Yeah, thinking about bodies of water. This one actually is an interesting one. This one was thinking about colour in relation to this one. So this bad boy is an ongoing thing. It's taking a lot longer than I had hoped. You know, I was thinking about colour. This sky was not like this. In fact, it was like blue. It was like this blue thing. You would have seen it on my community page. And it was something so uncomfortable about this. I was like, no, it's just not working. Then I started to reference my inspo wall and get some of that good stuff out. And then I decided, yeah, actually, I love this colour. It needs to be more flat, I think. I mean, I've spent 2 weeks on that already. Can you even deal with it? Oh, we're so near a sketchbook tour on the big jumbo. Delicious. Right, so we've got the Moleskine A4. I did this, hated it, but then thought, actually, this would be a great ground. So much like the A5 one, I would create something, leave it, go back to it, put more ideas on. So it's almost like prepped pages for me to have to deal with. That's a really great exercise as well. So here's one here, look. So I would create a ground, right? Like almost like a very rudimentary landscape. And I have intention of going back over this because there's a few ideas I've got for this bad boy that I think would be quite useful. Again, see, this is the Stillman and Burn. I did this. This is something I'm going to go work back on. This one is a beautiful one. Watercolour. I think it might be, no, it's gouache. I apologise. Gouache. But look how fabulous that is. It's so simple and so clean and minimal. There's something so beautiful about it and so inherently not me. And I'm even doing it actually in my little A6, I think it's A6. I'm even doing it in these, you know? So this is sort of the body of water, you know, playing with different sizes and everything, and the grounds again, you know, and figuring out composition. This is just one influence, one of many influences I might add, where I'm absolutely proud to have taken off Sandy. There was one in here that I loved. The paper's very sucky. It's very, very greedy. Thirsty paper. But what that means is you should get different marks. So before you're able to make the gesture, you have to get it on wet, fast, because it will leak through the other page big time. And you have to be really, really fast. So what this sketchbook has offered me is a sense of practice. And that's one of my favourite ones. But that took me seconds, like dash, dash. Very time orientated, this sketchbook, but I really like it because when I have overdone it, like this one, beautiful layers, thinking about colour, just messing around really, playing, as Sandy would say. So it started to rip, so I had to put some tape down, and then I did the same on here, but then I took the pockets and tried to put water in, and I don't know how I feel about water. It's just one of them, isn't it? It's all a learn curve. I really hope that this week was informative. It was mental, I know that. But you must take what's needed, not what you want, I think is what I'm telling myself. Thank you so much for those that come back continuously each week. The support is just overwhelming, you know? It really is. There are much bigger channels out there, I get that, but I just appreciate, I love what I've created this far, and it wouldn't be what it is if it weren't for you guys, so thank you. Obviously, to those who haven't subscribed, subscribe. It's free, and it really does help, but it means a big deal. Like a big deal, just to let you know. I've been told. Thanks, guys.